The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rudy Cashman. Welcome to the Mind, Body, Spirit Show. We are going to have a very exciting show today. I have a great guest here, Emily Bowler, who has written a book recently, and she's a good friend of the person that I mention on these shows all the time, Dr. Fuhrman, Dr. Joe Fuhrman. She's been on TV with him and has blogged with him and sponsored some of his lectures even. So this, I think, can be very interesting for you. And she wrote this book called Starved to Obesity. And this is really her life story. So it's a reality and very scientific, easy to read. I think the way you wrote it. And it has a lot to do with food addiction. I mean, who's not addicted to a donut? Even with my good health habits, they're hard to resist under the right situation. So tell us your story a little bit. Why you're passionate about the topic of food addiction. And I know you had health issues, weight issues, for example, up and down, which most of us had, believe me. I lost 15 pounds a few years ago from cutting back from sugar. My pants used to fall off me. Yeah, that happened to me. And I thought before that, man, I have the perfect body. Well, I was wrong. And with that, Alice, tell us your life story a little bit.
Well, I grew up on a farm out in Whitley County. And, being a farm kid, my mom she was excellent at cooking. That's how she, expressed her love. And so I grew up we had sugar actually on the table as a condiment to put on even sliced tomatoes out of the garden. And she put sugar in, potato salad, coleslaw, everything had sugar in it. But it wasn't just my mom. Every farm family in the Midwest.
Yeah, I heard
here.
they take the produce, the wonderful healthy food, take it to town, sell it, and then they go home and eat bad food.
Yeah, that's
and I've read that in other books. Yeah, I was reading your book. Your mom really supplied you well.
And unfortunately, because of that, I was a plump, little child, and she didn't know what to do, so she put me on a diet then when I was 6 years old.
At age 6?
At age 6. My first diet is basically a calorie-restricted diet. I went to school with a thermos of, by the time noon came around, it was a soggy salad soaking in Catalina salad dressing, half of a grapefruit, and I was just starved all the time. And, of course, we had, being on a farm, my parents had a barn with a freezer down there.
Yeah.
I would go down there and sneak Twinkies. My mom had frozen Twinkies.
Boy.
So let's just say I developed a severe addiction to all kinds of sugar. When I was like 6th grade, I remember my first major binge on a whole entire pack of Oreos. I just sat down and ate the entire thing of Oreos in one sitting. And,
and after a while,
children who are overweight are the brunt of the teasing on the playground. And so in order, I was called all kinds of names at school, and I hated it. And in order to survive high school, I literally starved myself. I went to school every day with an orange, and by the time I was a freshman, I went to Columbia State High School. I was perfect weight, all through high school. And then I was hospitalized at one point because my vision had changed. And they found nothing wrong with me except that I was anorexic. And
were you starving yourself?
I was starving
Okay.
myself. I was not
Okay.
eating.
Okay.
I was eating maybe an orange a day,
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
A day.
And so anyhow, so the doctor back in the late 70s, the advice was go home and make your daughter eat. So of course that was no therapy, no counseling, nothing like that. And of course I gained weight, and then I gained too much. And by the time I was 47 years old, I was more than 100 pounds overweight. I have 5 children, and with each pregnancy, I gained a little bit more weight, a little bit more, but I had such a severe addiction to food, processed food, high calorie foods, anything, cheese, meat. And, I made homemade foods, meatloaf and...
Yeah, and what most people don't realize, nature, God, designed in us a circuitry of rewards for eating food to keep us alive. We have the quick fix, which could be a donut, or cigarette, or marijuana, for example. And then we have and that's a dopamine response. And then more long-term fixer, serotonin, which you might get from good food or exercising or singing a song or playing pickleball like I do or taking tap dance. That's my serotonin level. It's a great story. So continue with your story.
Well, so anyhow, so when I was 42 actually, and I still had 5 children at home who were living at home, I had a heart cath here in Fort Wayne, and I was diagnosed with coronary artery disease. And
were you having chest pain?
Yeah, I was having chest pain. I was out weed whipping one day, and I could just feel something. It was just not right. And I was only 42. And my mom had had a stroke. My grandmother died of a stroke. My dad had quadruple bypass surgery. I knew that I was sitting on a time bomb just because the history in my family.
Yeah.
And I had pre-diabetes at that time, but I still didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think it's in their genes.
Yeah.
And that it's in the family. There's nothing I can do. And I just like to tell you right now, they're just wrong.
That's
90% of the time, and you know that now too. So continue.
So anyhow, actually, during that little period of time, my 11-year-old son at that point, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so being, the mother I was, I got online that night, and I typed in reverse diabetes. And this article popped up by this doctor out in New Jersey named Dr. Furman, Joel Furman. And I read the article, and it sounded really like, oh, this is really good. So my husband and I actually made a phone consultation with him. And he told us how we could eat to not only, we couldn't reverse totally type 1 diabetes because they always need insulin. Usually kids get that. But he said it would save us from complications. It would be healthy for our entire family to eat this way. He explained how we should eat. And guess what my husband and I did after that phone call? We looked at each other and we said, it sounds good, but there's no way we can do that. But that was incorrect thinking. Now that I've been doing this for 11 years, it's very easy. I mean, you do have to change your lifestyle, but it's a part of our lives now.
Yeah.
He eats totally this way. I eat totally this way. Our children eat this way. They're grown. They're adults now.
Yeah.
But they eat this way. And so anyhow, unfortunately, we did not follow Dr. Furman's advice at that time. So another 6 years goes by, and I get more chest pain. My numbers are climbing higher on the diabetic scale, and my blood pressure, Walmart, how they have one of those blood pressure cuffs.
Yeah.
I put my arm in there, and it registered 154/97 that day.
Wow.
And I knew that, oh my goodness, I got to do something. But yet I was so addicted to food at this time. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And there's a local artist, Audrey Riley. I was at her art studio one day. And it just hit me. Because I was going to, I'm an artist too. I'm a painter. And I was going to all the art openings, showing my art at the Museum of Art in different places. And it just hit me that I was putting mud like on my own paintings, you know, and it sort of I made the connection. I was going to make this into an art exhibit. I thought, what would happen, just like a painter uses paint, what would happen if I used food, and the food that Dr. Fuhrman had claimed would reverse disease? What if I use this as an experiment and I put food into my body and just experiment if it would change my body? And so I started on July 10th, 2008. And within 1 month, I still had, I was still obese at this point. But within 1 month, my blood pressure was coming down. My blood sugars were coming down. Everything, the weight on the scales were coming down. And I started to get more energy. And I knew at that point that food was what was nourishing my body and reversing disease, nutrients. And from then on, that was just 30 days into it, I knew this is what I was going to do for the rest of my life.
I'd like to emphasize to the audience watching this because my next show, actually half-hour show, will be on diabetes, is our biome. You have to learn something about the biome, that there's bacteria living in your gut, trillions of them, and they determine the metabolism of your body, and that most people who get type 2 diabetes and the complications, they can get rid of it 90% of the time in a month or two, because these bacteria are dependent on this bad food. The lifespan, I don't know if you know this or not, the lifespan of one of these trillions of bacteria, of one bacteria, 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
Wow.
And then the mucosa, the cells that cover your gut, which is when your food has to penetrate that one layer of cell, the lifespan of one of those cells, 24 hours.
Oh my goodness.
So the biome is that runs you. So what you put in there very quickly will change. That's exactly what happened to you. And you tell me the story without knowing what I just told you.
Sure.
Isn't that fantastic?
That is amazing.
Yeah, the biome is very interesting. You can go on YouTube and watch my show on biomes.
Yes.
And continue.
Well,
sorry to interrupt you. But
that's very good. Good point.
That's the science behind it. That's the reality. The weight will drop quickly. You lost 20 pounds in a month.
In a month, and within 10 months, I lost 100 pounds. I mean, these were the pants I was wearing.
Yeah,
you can
look
see
at
these.
this. Yeah.
These were the pants I was wearing on July 10th, the day I started this.
Yeah.
10 months later, I was 100 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
And, I no longer had diabetes. I no longer had heart disease. My blood pressure went down to like 107 over 64.
Yeah.
I mean, and no medicine.
Yeah.
Not one pill.
Look at most people, diabetes, are taking 10, 20 medications.
Oh,
and the cost and the side effects, and that's something you got to do every day.
Yes.
You can get rid of it in a month or two.
Yes.
And here's a great example. And besides, you're rearranging your body. I know when reading your book, you look at your body as a work of art. And there's mathematics. Mark Hyman writes about that, Dr. Hyman, is that there's mathematics in nature. So when you're eating nature, you turn into nature. And that's what you did. Look at her today. You turned into nature by eating the right kind of food. So continue on your journey here.
Yeah. Well, what happened, the basic, Dr. Fuhrman teaches about the basic thing, and I know you teach this too. Health is nutrients over calories, meaning higher amounts of nutrients and naturally are lower in calories. And when we focus, this is what was so successful about it, and why I can still do this 11 years later, and it's a continually part of my journey for the rest of my life, is I don't focus on depriving myself, like, oh, I can't have that, I can't have that. I don't want to have a donut anymore. I don't want to have, because you lose the taste buds for those. When you focus on eating high nutrient foods, we're talking about the green vegetables, the nuts and seeds and whole grains and fruits. You know, when you're getting lots of nutrients in your body, it shuts off that addictive, like, I've got to have food all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you were addicted to food. It hit the circuitry here.
Yep.
You had, it's like lighting up a cigarette. You just had to do it. So food addiction is a huge part of this, because we use it to make us feel good. I mean, life's stressful, let's face it.
Oh, yeah.
We all got stresses. I got stresses. We all got stresses, except I play pickleball tennis and hug the wife, hug the cats, and go down, have a cup of coffee, and watch my bird feeders.
Sure.
And yesterday morning walks by a pregnant deer, and I see him on his hind legs, holding up his forelegs, using a tongue to clean out my birdhouse.
Oh,
I saw that.
oh
I wish I
my.
could have brought a picture for the show.
Oh,
So,
that's cute.
but food addiction is, how can a person get over food addiction?
Well, this
Because let's face it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah. This is the main thing. I say, you know, prior to eating this way, I was probably, Dr. Fuhrman, he has different scores he attributes to different foods. Like the greens score really high, almost 1,000, most of them. Where like a piece of bread or pasta or cheese scores really low, like under 20 points. And, you know, now I probably flood my body with 4,000 to 5,000 points. I don't count points, but just that's how high
he
of
calls
nutrients.
us Andy scores, right?
The Andy scores.
Like
the
kale's got
aggregate
1,000,
nutrients.
and
Yes.
white bread might get
Yes.
10.
Yeah. And the reason I called my book Starved to Obesity is I was probably eating 200 of these points a day. And now, and that's when I started eating this way, I am eating thousands of points. So that's
the
what
vitamins,
shuts
the
off.
minerals,
Yes.
and the phytochemicals,
Right.
which run the metabolism of your body.
Right.
And they satisfy your nutrient need. You don't, or Dr. Fuhrman has any calorie restriction, does he? You don't
No.
count calories.
No, I don't wet, and I do measure out my nuts and seeds because I could easily overeat on walnuts.
Yeah.
But everything else, I just if it's time for a meal, you know, I start with a big salad. I mean, I don't eat a small salad. I eat a big salad.
Yeah.
I eat a smoothie at breakfast time. I know you love smoothies. I fill my Vitamix container with kale. I'll put in there some almonds, blueberries, a ripe banana, water, and get it going. I love that.
Yeah, let me ask you a thing, because it's tough to change. You know, myself included. My dad had a deli in New York. I know what bad food is. But I'm constantly recommending in my lectures that at least start one thing: no sugary drinks.
Yes.
If you want a pot belly, drink sugary drinks. I mean, that's a significant part of it. But I tell people to have a smoothie in the morning. And I have one every day. I had one today. You probably had one today. Tell us a little bit the difference between smoothies and juicing.
Sure.
Which do you prefer?
Juicing is where you actually take the pulp out of the fruit and the vegetable. So it crushes the cells in a pulverizing machine, and then the pulp is left. So it's just, you have just the pure, you know, phytochemicals.
Yeah.
There's no cellulose,
Right.
there's no fiber. So anyhow, a lot of people do drink that, but Dr. Fuhrman recommends really no more than 4 ounces a day if you're going to drink juice. Some people guzzle it down just like...
I think it's got to be
And
high
they-
sugar, too, a little bit.
It is, especially a lot
Yeah.
of people put lots of fruit in it. If
Yeah.
it's primarily
Yeah.
a fruit drink with a little bit of green juice, you know, that's really off balance. So I personally like the smoothie just because it has the fiber, it has other things than just
Right, and the
straight
fiber,
juice.
remember, helps you because
Slows it down.
it has a certain amount of calories in it too. You know what I mean? But the fiber is not absorbed in your body, so it comes out in the end, and you're not gaining those. So my idea of telling people to have a smoothie every day is a good one, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And to increase the nutrients in the greens that are in the smoothie, always make sure you put either almonds or flaxseed, something in the smoothie that increases the phytochemicals in it by 10
I do.
times.
I have people buy frozen vegetables, fruits, and some fresh, and to add some curcumin, some ginger, and some Life Fit, I think it's called too, which has a lot of good plant proteins. Protein from plants are very healthy, while protein from animals has got cancer factors in it. It's got IGFs in it, insulin growth factors in it, and Dr. Fuhrman and ourselves are totally against meat, right?
Yeah, as a condiment, more like as a flavoring.
Yeah,
it's okay, but when you eat it, consume it for every meal, every day. That's when it gets really dangerous.
You eat steak 7 days a week, your cancer rates go up, and which reminds me too, the Vera Bradley breast thing is coming up, and I remind people I personally don't think they take all the money, they send it to Indianapolis, but a drug is not going to solve this problem totally.
No.
It may be helpful, but you can prevent breast cancer. You don't drink maybe a glass of wine. Okay, I'm not promoting it, but I'm just saying if you do, you don't smoke, keep a normal weight, avoid most toxins, you can reduce breast cancer rate 70%.
That's
Most women I talk to got no idea of it. Would you agree with what I just said?
Absolutely,
absolutely. So good nutrition, you could avoid most cancers.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree totally.
And not just breast cancer, but a lot of cancers.
And back to real quick on the smoothie thing, I think a lot of people get smoothie mixed up with a blended salad. I actually like to call it a blended salad more than a smoothie because people tend to think, oh, a smoothie, I'll put all the fruit in it I want, and it's basically just a fruit ice cream. And I like to make sure it's primarily the greens in it and the nuts and seeds.
The kale should be at the bottom.
Right.
That has 1,000 points instead of the nutrient density, the Andy score.
Sure.
I would put kale at the bottom.
Because for me personally, and Dr. Fuhrman teaches this, it's, fruit is good at the end of a meal, like for dessert or to flavor a blended salad, but to eat it just primarily as a smoothie, even though there's a lot of nutrients in fruit, it's best to have the greens first.
It might get high sugar.
Right, and start flipping that equation. Remember, health is, the nutrients or the calories. You can actually flip it, and that's how, it's a sort of a rabbit trail. I did gain some weight back. I have a son who died several years ago, and I didn't gain it all back, but I put on some pounds, and I got in the habit. I never went back to eating the standard American diet, which is what most people eat. But I flipped it. I started eating more fruit. I started having fruit smoothies instead of green smoothies. And, the weight came back on just by flipping that, the equation. I started eating more calories than nutrients.
Yeah, vegetarians, quote, which we're not saying. We're nutritarians, right?
Nutritarians, high nutrients.
High nutrient foods of color. You can add mushrooms.
Onions.
And onions. Because they don't have color, they're full of nutrients. And tell me a little bit about the psychology of it again, which it plays into food addiction. How can people avoid food addiction?
Well, number one, and I think this is the most important part of it, is to just recognize that you're addicted. And the way you can tell, like at New Year's, if you're trying to give up, say, your favorite flavor of ice cream for a New Year's resolution, but 2 weeks later, you're back to eating that ice cream, you're addicted to it. Or maybe it's your favorite beverage. If you try to give it up for New Year's or a special event and you can't, you're addicted to it. And most Americans are addicted. We've grown up on these foods since we were toddlers and infants.
Yeah.
And so, I think the number one is to recognize this is a true addiction, and it is. And most people, when they understand, oh yeah, this is an addiction, and with all addictions, and it sounds harsh, but if you're trying to give up nicotine, smoking, if you say, well, I'm going to get out of the addiction, but I'm going to continue to smoke 1 cigarette a day.
Yeah.
I would smoke in moderation. That doesn't work. Or alcohol. You basically have to get rid of that food. And we all have to eat. We all have to eat. But we do not all have to eat the standard American diet, which is the foods that are causing us to have the heart attacks, the diabetes. And so if we can, keep it. Did you know there's over 800 beans? I mean, people think that, I could never eat this way because I'm only eating a little bit of food. Oh my goodness, there's all kinds of vegetables, all kinds of beans, all kinds of fruit. We haven't even touched on the amount of fruit that's out there that we've never eaten, like a jackfruit. Have you ever had the jackfruit?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of fruits out there,
Actually, Dr. Furman, who's a friend of mine now too, through you, I think you introduced him. Although I beat him in tennis last time.
You always like to say that. That's cool.
Just want to mention that. That his cookbook called Quick Fix is fantastic. For people who don't want to do a lot of reading, and you say, I want to get rid of my diabetes in 6 weeks, like you made up your mind, I tell you, the book has got pictures, got smoothies, has desserts in it. And you can just throw the book on the floor, pick it up, and say, there'll be a picture of something you could have for dinner. It's always healthy. It will taste good.
Yes.
That's what people forget. Good food tastes good.
Although, for some of us, I was severely addicted to food. I gagged on greens that first week I started this, but I knew it's either, learn to like the green vegetables or take insulin. And I thought, and it took me a good week or two before I quit gagging on greens.
Yeah.
I mean, and it
but
takes a while.
you can put such good things.
Oh,
to
yeah,
make
there's
it taste,
so many.
Taste so good.
Yeah.
That to me,
it takes that away.
And don't let people use a bunch of olive oil, and they get a beautiful salad and you put 800 calories of olive oil on top of it. You got to watch that. Yeah.
If you could have like a green smoothie for breakfast and then a big salad for lunch with some fruit, and then dinner, some beans and whole grains and some, another salad, and you get full. That's the thing. This way of eating.
And big plates of it.
Oh my goodness!
Because when your body you fulfill the nutrient need, your body will say, "I'm not hungry."
Yeah. For years.
It's not about small portions.
No. For years, I did the whole portion control thing. I went to all the meetings and did I'd weigh and measure every little thing and had it on my plate. And plus, I had diet Jell-O, diet pudding, diet pop, diet sugar-free gum. And I was literally hungry all the time. And that's the first thing I noticed.
Because your nutrient need had not been met.
Yes.
Your body, it said, come on with the nutrients. Don't stop eating. Then we go to fast food restaurants. We can't seem to stop.
Yes.
Let me ask you one other question, too. I had a gentleman who sings at churches recently want to meet with me. I think I met him at the country club. A guy with a fantastic voice. I mean, fantastic voice. And he says, Doc, he said, I was singing recently. I went to this church, and they have these tiny little donuts. Yeah, like Oreos almost. Couldn't stop eating. He says, ate 8 of them. He says, and then I drank a small Coke. And I was singing this song in front of this big church, a wonderful place. He says, and I passed out.
Oh, my
This happened.
goodness.
This actually happened. He fell down. He could not finish singing his, at the 11 o'clock service. And I said to him, I know what, you had a glucose tolerance test. Where you swallow a certain amount of sugar, and his sugar level, I'm sure, got high, and then sugar goes up and it goes back down, and he passed out. I have this little more serious question here. At some hospitals that I know of, for example, I see they're selling donuts. Okay, does that make any sense? But I also would say I've been to many churches where I give some talks, and and they're supposed to follow things that say in the Bible, you know, and the Bible says the body of a Christ is within you, so to stay healthy is a God command, actually. But what are they serving as you walk in? Plates of free donuts. That been upsetting to me. Matter of fact, I know of one, I won't mention any names, minister's wife who just, I was teaching this, and he says, well, I'm not going to change. Well, recently I heard she had a heart attack. And so that is not what Christ or God is looking for.
Yes.
So does it upset you when, because I know you're a very faithful person who has a belief in God, like myself, that you see a lot of churches serving bad food.
Absolutely. You know, especially churches and hospitals, but you
And
know,
hospitals.
their callings are places of healing, basically.
Yes.
You know, we
Yeah.
go, who do we call when we're having an emergency? Is a pastor, or we go to the church for prayer. You know, we have
Yeah.
a sickness or whatever. And so, you know, to be praying for the sick to get healthy and whole.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time feeding donuts, especially addicting the children. Oh, that's,
Yeah.
you know, that is so sad. 'cause
And they
I
can't
know-
help it because their brain is not fully developed,
No.
and they'll head for anything sweet. They just
Exactly.
grab it.
Or
You-
to give candy bars as
Yeah.
rewards for learning Bible verses. It's like,
Yeah.
I know how much I struggled as a child
Yeah.
with food addiction, and to be addicting the next generation to have this come up all throughout their life. They'll be fighting this addiction the rest of their life once they get those taste buds.
Yeah, and I
going.
especially caution that children brain are not fully developed,
Yes.
and they're much quicker to addict, and that's been seen recently, especially in marijuana, for example. Is a child starts smoking marijuana at age 9, odds are there'll be some sort of addict, not just marijuana, cigarettes and alcohol, opioids, for a lifetime.
Yes.
They've shown changes, the functional MRI scans they've done of children. The brain is not fully developed to age 25. So to give sugar or cigarettes or marijuana to children, I mean, to me, it's almost criminal. And because you're bringing problems. They could be dying from heart attacks in their 40s and 30s, and people do. And people, that's unfortunately the reality of it. So, you know.
Yeah, my heart breaks. I mean, when I worked for Dr. Furman, I went through the United States and interviewed people. I met a lot of people who
That was
had
impressive.
either getting out of food addiction or had gotten out of food addiction. And to hear the stories of mothers who cannot take care of their children because of their food addiction, who,
Yeah.
you know, fathers who cannot climb up a ladder to fix the roof of their house because
Yeah.
they're so overweight because
Yeah.
of their food addiction. People have been suicidal because of food addiction. And to know that we could prevent this in childhood, and then for churches to be addicting the next generation, it just breaks my heart, because I've heard the stories of the families who the addiction is just breaking their family apart.
Yeah, and in this country, and I'm serious, and you, and I think Furman would agree, probably 1 out of 2 people in this nation is pre-diabetic or diabetic.
Oh, I believe that.
One
Yeah.
out of 2.
Yeah.
And I always remind people too, you are what your blood work is, but there are what they call the trophies, thin on the outside, but they have fatty liver. So just because you're looking good doesn't mean you couldn't be having type 2 diabetes, some even type 1. So you are what a blood test says. And I personally believe, and you and I had a little conversation beforehand and agree, we should be checking the blood work and the body mass index, how much a child weighs, for example, starting at a very young age.
Yeah.
Not we're testing them, you know, with teenagers or above. No. I firmly believe, and I see it confirmed in a book I read recently, age 2 or 3. They put it all on a computer chip, or write it in a book. I like this computer chip called Carte Vitale they use in France. All the health information as a person is on this computer chip. So you go to a doctor's office, put it in there, and we know what's going on for a lifetime. And we can catch people on the path to obesity or weight loss or addiction. That's a wonderful
yeah, I love that
we
idea.
should
Yeah.
we like to recommend that maybe we need to almost pass a national law along to pay attention to the environment of our body.
Yeah. You know, I think, you know, Dr. Furman has a quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. If we eat the same foods that most Americans eat,
Yeah.
we'll get the same diseases that most Americans get. And, you know, it's sort of we make fun almost of eating junk food in our
Yeah.
culture. You know,
Yeah.
people, it's a joke, you know, and so I think, you know, to bring it back to the seriousness of it, it's, you know, these children who are going to be having heart attacks at age 20, you know, strokes in their teenage years.
I noticed
It's a serious.
one of the recent sport teams went to the White House and they gave them junk food right in front of the TV. That was a teaching opportunity to feed the right food, and people, you know what I mean? Because we all had to learn. I didn't always know what good food is, like I
Yeah.
said.
No, I didn't either.
My mom and dad fed me, you know, I always had acne as a child, for example, and I didn't realize milk could do that. Yeah, but our knowledge has gained too. So what is toxic withdrawal? Getting back to addiction, Dr. Furman writes a lot about toxic withdrawal. How long does it last, and what are you talking about?
Toxic withdrawal, when we eat foods with chemicals in them, and especially the highly processed food, there's
Yeah.
metabolites in them that create these toxins. They build up in our system. And so if we stop eating, for instance, if we stop eating processed food, cold turkey, you know, we're going to quit. And 2 days later, or really for a lot of people, it's like 2 hours later, they start having headaches, shakiness, nausea, diarrhea for some people, and that's called toxic hunger, and that's a withdrawal from these toxins. We're cleaning these toxins out of our body, so we have this toxic withdrawal. I say when I worked for Dr. Furman, people would come on a Sunday night to his health getaways, and these were people who had never eaten healthy before. It was a special corporation brought their employees to this place. And on Sunday night they came, they had their first meal. And by Monday, I did the morning hikes with them. We had a lot of them sick by Monday morning, already just from one night of detoxing from their food.
Yeah, that's actually where I met you the first time in San Diego, California,
right.
I think, where I went to this a week seminar, and you ate only his food.
That's right.
And it was beautiful food.
Yeah.
And,
But if you're coming off of eating McDonald's just before coming, you're going to have some toxic withdrawal. And most people, the worst symptoms are about 3 or 4 days.
yeah.
And then after about 4 or 5 days, their brain starts getting clearer.
Yeah.
The symptoms of shakiness and the stomach, you know, upset stomach start disappearing. And most people, though, they start feeling better. But here's where it's tricky. If on day 2 you feel really sick because you don't feel well, you go and eat that cookie, and I guarantee you're going to feel instantly better right then. And that's the trick. Most people, why they can't get out of this phase, even though it's only 3 or 4 days, on day 2, if they start experiencing the symptoms, they're right back eating the quickest drive-through they can get. So I tell everybody during those 3 or 4 days, don't plan to go out to eat with your friends during those 4 days.
Yeah.
Because you're in the middle of a restaurant and you're having some withdrawal symptoms, you pretty much guaranteed you're going to go back to eating the hamburger, whatever you were so addicted to. So anyhow, but for most people, it's 3 or 4 days, and then gradually it's a lot of the times a month or 2 before it's like totally gone.
Totally gone. Actually, I went that seminar where you went. My wife went, and we ate this beautiful food. And I already was teaching a lot about health. I just wanted to learn more and from an expert. It's about the 4th day or so. My wife says, "Let's eat out one day," because the same people, the same conversation. So we went out. This is very interesting. And this one was Key West. And we go to this beautiful restaurant. Ordered most gorgeous looking fish. They had caught it maybe 2 hours ago. Great salad. And I sat down to eat it, and it looked great. I had zero appetite.
Yeah.
Zero. I think I was at that transition a step behind, where my nutrient need, all this beautiful food 3 times a day, I had met my nutrient need, and my body didn't want nothing.
Yeah.
I never in my life had experience where I could not even take a bite.
Yes.
I told the waitress that, honey, I'll pay for it, but
I don't want it.
I'm just not hungry. So when you meet your nutrient need, see, when eating fast food, you're not meeting your nutrient need. You're going to keep on eating. In the meanwhile, you're taking in a lot of calories, and you're going to gain weight. Isn't that an interesting story?
Yeah,
I'll never
that's
forget it. I still see that fish
isn't
in
that
Key
funny?
West. Yeah.
And you know, that's the beauty of eating this way. People say to me all the time, "How can you give up pizza?" I mean, I have not eaten pizza or any of that, stuff for 11 years now.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't even think about it. It's like, I don't want pizza. I would get really sick if I ate a piece of pizza. When you're fully nourished, it just shuts off that craving for all that junk.
Yeah, pizza places, some places do sell some vegetarian pizza, but my wife broke her arm recently. Changing my closet out, fell off a stool, oh my God. And somebody standing there too, but it wasn't me. But so people are bringing food in to see her. And they went to a local pizza place here, not the most well-known one actually, and bought a vegetarian pizza. So they're there, and I see all the cheese, and I had a few olives, and the crust was like this. That's not vegetarian pizza. I told my wife, I can't eat this, just throw it away. So when people want to serve you stuff like full of cheese and full of sugar, just throw in the garbage can. It isn't always what they say it is. That was the vegetarian pizza. So I know you went to Purdue University to study art, and that's fascinating. And that's your degree. So how did you go from being an artist in Sacramento, living in a rural Indiana, and writing regular blog posts for Dr. Fuhrman? That's how you guys get to know each other. And you wrote one blog for him, I think, and then you start doing it regularly.
Yeah. That was sort of a funny story. I say it's because I'm an internet troll that I became a blog writer. Now I was, like I said, I was this mom in Indiana raising 5 kids, and when I had lost the 100 pounds that year, I was writing a little bit on Dr. Fuhrman's Member Center, just different things. It's where you can get support online, when you're
and people need it.
Yeah, and you need the online support or
and
local
it's great.
support.
We have to compliment him for doing that. Yeah.
But I was on there writing a little bit, and he said, "Hey, would you mind writing 500 words about your favorite vegetable?" And at that point, it was romaine lettuce,
Yeah.
So I wrote 500 words about romaine lettuce, and he put it on his blog. He had a big blog following, and all of his readers really enjoyed what I wrote. So he asked if I'd write again, and one thing led to another. For 3 months, I was writing a weekly blog post. Well, somebody was online putting all these negative comments about my blog post, like, "Oh, this is terrible writing," or "Her information is terrible." All these negative, and I think
must have been a donut company.
Yeah, I think it probably was. But I think people were almost coming online just to see what the latest fight was. And Dr. Fuhrman would write, "If you don't like my blog, get off," blah, blah, blah. Well, come to find out, they researched, and there was 5 women and 4 men, and they all had the same IP internet address. So one person was writing all these negative comments. So overnight, I became this, blog writer for Dr. Fuhrman, which snowballed into speaking, at Dr. Fuhrman's events, which snowballed into being on some television shows.
And you got on the Oz show, I think.
Got on the Dr. Oz show, told my story, how to make ice cream. It's called Nice Cream, out of frozen bananas and some berries. And also I made on the show brownies out of black beans and cocoa powder and dates. That was on the show. But yeah, that's how I ended up working for Dr. Fuhrman for 5 years. And do you want me to tell then, I can tell a little bit. I had a son that died just right after the taping of that show, and it was actually aired just 2 days before his funeral. And he took his life, and it was actually in part due to a junk food overdose. With him being diabetic, when he would eat too much junk food, it would
become delusional.
He would become delusional. It was a medical delirium that he would get. So that contributed a lot to his unfortunate, death.
And stresses you've been through, and
yes,
and a reaction to, and food's about psychology. Like I said,
it is.
We gotta eat every day. It's not something, well, we don't have to drink alcohol every day, but you gotta eat every day. So the psychology drives this. So I suggest to people develop some habits that reduce stress. We all get stress. I get stress, and that's the reason I hug the pets and hug the wife and play pickleball and tennis and maybe reading a lot, writing a lot gets our mind on something else. And then one thing I do in the morning, you find it interesting, and is take a walk in nature. Now some people don't have the time. You got to go to work, but now that I'm after 45 years of neurosurgery, I got more time. So I don't care what the weather is. I put on different outfits and I take a walk, and I really communicate. Now spring has sprung all of a sudden. I see the beauty of the crabapple trees and the redbud trees, and I look at the leaves, and I know when the trees are going to sprout, and the four-leaf clover and the river going by, and now I'm singing to the cardinals, and there's one guy that when I go through the certain gate in the second pond, I walk her through. He's always there, and he's tweeting at me. Oh yeah, and he will not stop till I stop. So he does his thing, I do my thing. He does his thing, and so communing with nature. I mean, when I get done with this, and even because I'm taking some singing lessons, I practice my songs when I'm walking. What a beautiful morning, or if I ruled the world, or yesterday all of a sudden the sky opened up, it rained. I was walking with it. I knew it was raining a little bit, but man, it really came down to the point you couldn't take it. You know what I did? Start singing in the rain. I did. And that last 5 minutes of my walk, I was somewhere else. So I think for relaxation, I think to take a walk in nature, whatever exercise makes you feel good, I think is important. So tell me, what are three of your favorite recipes?
Well, number one, I love a kale smoothie, blended salad in the morning. It's the kale, the almonds, flaxseed, about a handful, a big handful of berries, about a cup of berries, and a very ripe banana. Put in that. I love that. But also a kale salad. All I do is I take kale and I destem it, because if you eat the stem of kale, now you can put the stem of a kale in your smoothie and that gets blended up. You don't taste it. But when you go to eat a salad, I take all the kale leaves off of that stem, cut up the leaves. I start with one bunch of kale, and I put in a diced red pepper and a little bit of sliced red onion. And then for the dressing, all I do is I take a ripe avocado.
So it's very simple.
Very simple. I take a ripe avocado and the juice of one lemon, and I literally I cut up the avocado, and I wash my hands, and I massage that into the leaves. And the lemon juice actually takes the bitterness of that.
That's a good condiment to add to things, lemon juice.
It is.
In smoothies especially.
Yes. Especially the next day. It softens the kale. It takes the bitterness of the kale. And my daughter, when she was in college, whenever she came home, I say, what do you want me to make? Kale salad. And I mean, my kids, they were diehard raised on junk food when they were little. They all just crave, this kind of food. And then another one, I like to make hummus, homemade hummus. I basically take 2 1-pound bags of chickpeas from get them at Kroger, and I put them in the bottom of a crock pot and fill it with water, cook it overnight on low. And then the next morning, I drain the liquid out, and I put those soft chickpeas in a food processor with a little bit of chopped garlic, lemon, and a little bit of spices, and blend that together.
Yeah.
And I love hummus. I spread those on like collard leaves and roll them up, or lettuce leaves.
It looks beautiful. I'm getting hungry.
Yes, I love. But I do love hummus. That and hummus, kale salad, and a blended smoothie.
Yeah. Hummus, just to buy it in most stores, a process, aren't they?
Well, it has a lot of salt and a lot of oil.
Yeah.
You can gain a lot of weight if
you have to watch it with canned beans, don't you, too?
Yeah, the sodium.
Yeah, because I had some bean soup recently. They were making it at home, and I thought something funny, and I checked my blood pressure sky high. I read the cans, sodium. You got to read labels.
Oh, yeah.
It's better to get the beans, buy them in huge quantities.
Yes.
It's cheap. Actually, tell me a little bit. You have in your book, but I agree. Good food, actually, if you buy it in bulk, you pay attention. You got to pay attention. It's actually cheaper.
Oh yeah, we go to Grable. Out in Grable, they have you can buy these 50-pound bags of dried beans and dried oats.
Yeah.
And we have these. We got them on the internet. They're these tubs with these screw-on lids that are airtight, so no critters can get in or anything.
Yeah.
And we store them in that. And so every time I'm out of beans or whatever, dried beans, I just unscrew the lid, take out what I need.
Next time you go to Grable, do that. Would you let me know?
Okay.
Not for self or the wife.
You don't have to do it very often.
No.
But
that's a good routine, and maybe the people. Do you remember the name of the store? It's just Grable Market.
I really don't know, but it's one
it's
of the
not
markets
that big a town.
there. It's not that big of a town, but they can get all kinds of beans.
And you buy in big quantities like that, and store it in the garage, and you can prepare them 2 or 3 days ahead, like on Sunday, and eat for 3-4 days.
Right. You know that crock pot you get as a wedding present, and you don't know what to do with it? Well, dig it out. And you can cook beans in there, and you don't have to have salt. So that's, it's cheap. Beans, I forget now what it is when you buy them 50-pound bulk like that, but it's fraction of what you pay for in the store.
I'll tell you a great story there. I go to Planet Fitness to work out.
Sure.
And I belong to other places I can work out, but I like it because more unhealthy people go there. And occasionally in the locker room, somebody will come up to me and say, Doc, I understand you teach people how to get rid of their diabetes or something. I asked the front desk, as much as I like the place, it's corporate policy not to have anybody doing something in there. Okay, so I understand it.
Sure.
I mean, I just wanted to play our TV show out of the 20 monitors. I wanted one, but wouldn't give it to me. Say, it's a national policy. So I'm speaking to this gentleman on a Saturday, okay? This tells you something about exercise, too, which you and I consider is important. Firma would say it's critical. Maybe a walk in nature. So they have 30,000 members there, okay? One place, all right? Only 10 people in the whole place, this beautiful place on Saturday morning.
Wow.
Yeah, that taught me, because I asked them at the front desk, only 3.5% of the people in this country work out. So just a walk, maybe a lot easier. So anyway, this gentleman was drying it off, just taking a shower. He says, Doc, you remember me? And I look at him, a healthy-looking guy, actually. He says, no, I don't. I really don't. Well, it's understandable because a year ago, apparently, I'd spoke to him for a half hour. I don't charge for that. In the locker room, and taught him how to lose weight and get rid of his diabetes. Yeah. And the things that he says, well, then nutrient-dense ways, in the books he might read, I have time to read. I said, well, he says, well, I'm going to show you something so you will remember. So he walks me outside, and there's a semi-truck. All Planet Fitnesses are in big shopping centers. So they have learned that they can pull that truck in, take a shower, work out, sleep in the truck overnight because the parking lots are empty. It's a weekend. And I saw an example again last night coming home from tennis. There's a semi, wasn't him, but they know this this game. And then he says, look inside my truck. I recognized the truck, and then I realized what I'd done. I'd walk around the truck, and I know how many times it takes to make a mile. Twice a day he used to do this. But then he makes me go in the truck, which I almost fell out of because the steps are like this. So what I see, cans of beans in there, no sodium in there. I read the label, and a crock pot.
Oh my
And what he was doing is taking a whole bunch of vegetables in California and some dried chicken without the skin on there. And by the time he hit New York, he's transporting buffalo meat.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, drops some off in Fort Wayne, and then he goes to New York to the specialty restaurants. And when he hits New York later in the day, his meal is ready. So the crock pot's a good idea where you can put in some food. You only goes to temperature, 120 or something.
I don't know what
it's
the
very low temperature.
Yeah.
Is when you raise to a high temperature, it breaks down the food and releases a lot of calories. That's what's against cooking and frying, and is if you heat something, cook a little bit at a low temperature, very low cooking, you don't release all the calories. It's kind of interesting. But anyway, this 380-pound man now weighed 210.
Oh my
goodness. I show him on some of my TV shows a picture. It looks like a movie star. Again, demonstrating, as Mark Hyman says, you eat nature, you start looking. You turn into a painting, as you beautifully say in your book. You're painting your body, because nature is based on mathematics, on biomathematics. So you eat nature, you become nature. Isn't that interesting? I mean, that's so hopeful for a lot of people. And I do have some, and here's a great example of this transformation that's occurred to you. What do you think are your challenges for the future?
My challenge, I think, as I, age and go through, I think just knowing that, I guess the challenge would be to continue on. It's not a challenge for me to continue on, but the challenge would be just not knowing when, I lost my train of thought there. Someone just walked in. But anyhow, I think the challenge is just, continuing on with this and not worrying about what everybody says when they give me hard times about eating this way and stuff. It doesn't bother me.
And doing something to relieve any anxiety and stress and something. You have a plan for the future.
Yes.
That's the reason I got you on the show, because I want you to be part of my future, to teach health to the community.
Sure.
Because you, myself, we love the people. The reason we're doing this, we love the people, and it's really an obligation.
Sure.
We're spiritual people, and but the knowledge is not out there, and industry has captured the food industry.
Yes, absolutely.
Congress gets so much money from these lobbyists, they are not going to change it. You got to do it yourself by looking at our websites, by reading books. This wonderful book, it's well written, easy to read, and looks at all aspects of it. And you're connecting yourself to Dr. Furman, myself a little bit, your knowledge, and because we all, many of us get a weight problem, but again, the trophies, some of the thin people too. So in summary, what do we recommend? Nutrient-dense fruits of color. You can add mushrooms and onions who don't have color to them. Maybe even Dr. Furman, a little bit of meat's okay. He calls it a condiment, but to eat a little, a bland chicken or turkey I think is a good one. But if eating 7 days a week, you're probably going to gain a lot of weight, probably get cancer, probably get diabetes. And the interesting thing, which hardly anybody knows, you can avoid most cancers. 78% of cancers can be avoided by eating right. And one people really don't know, you can avoid a lot of dementia. They'll say Alzheimer's disease is genetic. Baloney. 70% is related to your insulin. It's been found that the insulin degrading enzyme also degrades amyloid. So if you don't have a lot of elevated insulins in your body, you're going to be healthy, avoid dementia. And maybe take a walk in nature, sing a song, maybe take up tap dancing like I do. But anyway, We appreciate you watching the show, Emily, and I hope we could have continue on this mission together. This is to be healthy, to lead a full life.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
we all would like to do this,
Yes.
and it can be done. And if you get diabetes, be hopeful. These chronic diseases, most of them can be prevented and reversed. We have the information. Look at Emily Bowler website, Facebook Cashman, or Amazon Books. I got 15 books out there, maybe closer to 20. Cashman, Rudy Cashman, YouTube, 500 TV shows. These shows are there.
Wow, that's neat.